Hey everybody, today we're going to make what I'm calling, let's call it Old World tomato soup. The reason I'm calling it Old World is because typically when we make tomato soup these days, we thicken it with cornstarch or roux, which is actually pretty good. But we're going to do the Old World way, and by Old World I mean French, right? The classic way that the French used to make bisque is that they would thicken it with rice. And that is an absolutely lovely way to do things. It adds a really nice semi-nutty flavor because we use brown rice, and then it gets away from all of that floury stuff that you don't like, right? So, dude. So we're going to make this a little bit healthier by using brown rice, and I'm going to make a basic tomato soup tonight. Yeah, you can add onions and basil and garlic and curry if you want to. You get all kinds of things to it. We're going to go with just a classic, simple tomato soup. We don't have any cream, so it's not going to be cream of tomato, which, by the way, is very lovely. I always like to put just a little splash of cream in mine, right? But we don't have any cream, do we?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I don't think so. So we're just going to make regular tomato soup. So I've got 5 pounds of tomatoes here. Now this is one of the times when the proportions really matter. On some of the other stuff that I've done, it's really kind of iffy, right? But you don't want the tomato soup to be really super thick, and you don't want it to just be watery either, right? So I've got 5 pounds. I've prepared these, and I'm going to do the last 5 with you because I didn't figure you guys wanted to sit here and watch me do 5 pounds of tomatoes, right? So I've got these tomatoes right here. Now, a note on cutting tomatoes. Tomato skin itself is very tough. This is a really sharp knife, and you can see how it's getting through it, but it took a couple slices. Serrated knives are much better for tomatoes. So use a serrated knife on a tomato. So you're going to cut these in half through the width, through the equator. So I've got the top here, the bottom here, and I'm going to cut it through the equator, because if I cut it from top to bottom, then a lot of these little seed pockets are going to be closed off. So I need to open them all up because the seed pockets go down this way, right? So I'm just going to cut these all in half. Now, this is different from preparing tomatoes for a lot of things where you have to core and score, and then you have to blanch them, and you have to skin them and all that. We're going to pass the whole mess through a passer anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We don't have to go through all that. All we have to really do is seed them, and I guess you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but it's a good idea to, because all of the acid in a tomato, or most of the acid in a tomato, is in the seeds. So if you don't take the seeds out, then you're going to have a really, really acidic soup, and you don't want that. And so I've got my compost bin here. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze these off into here. Now, you don't have to get, can you still see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to get every last single seed, right? Don't be that way. You just have to get most of them. So give it a squeeze, rake it off with your finger, and move on. You really don't want to be here seeding tomatoes all night long. So we have a saying in the kitchen. What's that saying?
Move your ass?
Move your ass, that's right. Because if you've got 10 pounds of these things to do for a large family, then you really don't need to be taking 2.5 minutes getting every last seed from each one of them. There we go. So I got that. And it really didn't take me too much longer to do the rest of them. Now, I just quarter them. You can cut them in whatever size you want. This really isn't important. Quarters, to me, is the minimum size that'll go through the blender easily, and they also cook well like this. And you know, I don't have to spend. I mean, yeah, you could cut them in 8s and put them in little tiny dices and all that, but you know, they cook up just fine in quarters. There's no reason to get really picky about it. If you just want to cut them in half, if you're going to put them in like a food processor instead of using a stick blender, then you know, you can just put them in half or something, right? So I'm going to put all these guys in here. Now I will eventually, I lost my cameraman, so I'm talking to thin air right now. I'll come over here and turn on on my stove while I wait. There we go. I will eventually show you a tomato soup made with a roux, because I think it's important for you to know different thickening methods. But right now we're going to use the rice. So I'm just going to take these tomatoes here, dump them in a clean pot. Do I have to say it's clean? What I meant by clean is that there's nothing else in it, right? I didn't put any butter or oil or anything like that, right? So it's just a plain pot. I'm going to open up this guy. Now, I'm going to start with my rice. This is another one of those things that I've never really measured. I just put rice in there till it looks good. So I'm going to have to measure it now. So we've got 5 pounds of tomatoes, and there's 1 cup of rice. And this rice is already cooked, right? There's 2 cups of rice. There's 3. Oh yeah, that's much better. There's 3. And let's go with 4 cups of rice and see how that is.
I had no idea.
If I have to add a little bit more, then I will, right?
I had no idea you put that much in.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit of rice to thicken this stuff. And again, if I get too much, then I can always thin it out a little bit, right? So I've got that. Now I need water. That's what I forgot. So let's put some water in there. I'm going to use hot water because it's going to heat up faster, right? It'll boil faster. I realize I probably should have had the water ready, but I've been sitting here going, what am I missing? Oh yeah, water. And I really can't tell you how much water to put in, but I'll show you, because a lot of what you're going to do in cooking is going to be by sight, right? So let's start with this. I think this isn't going to be enough, but it'll get the pan going. Well, that may be enough. There we go. So you want to cover it. I mean, you want to put enough water in there to cover both of them. Fair enough? There we go. Now, on to discussion. I know some of you guys out there who cook really, really well. I'm looking at you. You know who you are. Who sends me comments every time I post something. I'm gonna hear from you about using chicken stock. Yes. Use chicken stock if you have it, because it's a great base and this is the kind of thing it's for.
Instead of water, right?
Instead of water,
yes,
that's right. But a lot of times you don't have chicken stock handy. And a lot of houses don't know how to make chicken stock or don't keep chicken stock handy. They're not in the habit. Hell, I've been making chicken stock for 30 years and I don't have chicken stock all the time, right? So I use chicken base. Don't use those little dried bouillon cubes. They're just nasty as hell. I love the Better Than Bouillon, and let me wipe some of the sweat off of there, the Better Than Bouillon chicken base. It is absolutely lovely. It's really good stuff. And it's got actual pieces of chicken meat in it, so good stuff. So I'm gonna put, I don't know, I've got a little teaspoon like this, right? And I'll put a couple in there like this, just to give it a base. So just like that. And that'll all mix in right fine. And now we just need to put some seasoning in there, right? We always have to salt. So, I told you guys I would measure stuff, so I'll measure stuff.
But you didn't measure the water.
Well, I said you got to put it until it's covered.
Hey,
right?
rinse that.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Now I've got a wet spoon. So, I'm going to do this with a teaspoon and I'll see how much salt I think it takes. 1, 2, 3. Let's start with 3. I'm sure we'll need more. So for a basic tomato soup, we're going to put some white pepper in there a little bit later. That's not right. But for a basic tomato soup, we are done. Now we just need to bring this to a boil and then simmer it until the tomatoes are cooked. 5 or 10 minutes, right? And then I'll come back and show you when it's boiling, and I'll turn it down to a simmer, and then I'll come back and show you when it's done, and then we'll burr it up and pass it, and it'll be golden. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our water boiling over here. Now it's time it's been boiling for about a minute or so, and tomatoes are really, they're really easy to cook, right? You don't want to overcook them. So we're going to go ahead and puree this up. Now, I suspect, because we're early in the tomato season, and I can tell by the color of a couple of these guys, I suspect that we're going to end up putting some tomato paste in there as well. You have to augment sometimes when you're out of tomato season. So I've already opened the can because I've been doing this a long time and I can just tell by the look of the tomatoes that they're not going to be superb. So we're going to, in fact I might as well do that now before I puree it up and puree them up in there. So I'm just going to add 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste, and this will just really richen up our tomato flavor.
Richen up, huh?
Richen up.
You sticking with that?
It'll embiggen our tomato flavor.
It's a perfectly cromulent word.
It is now. I think they've actually put cromulent in the dictionary.
And embiggen.
Have they?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hey, they come as a match set, so.
Okay. Let me rinse that off some. There we go. All right. So now we're just gonna burr it up. Now we haven't done anything complicated yet, right? We put some cooked brown rice and some cut tomatoes. Not a big deal.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm surprised you didn't do any thyme or bay.
Yeah, I kind of forgot.
And by the way, if you're going to put in bay, take it out before you burr it up.
Yeah, right. I usually do put thyme and bay in there, but yeah, you're right, I forgot.
So did I.
A couple things throw me off my game when I do this, right? One of them is having to measure things because I'm used to just tossing stuff in there. So it kind of throws me off a little bit. Now, you see in here, get up a little bit close on this. Now, you see I got these big chunks of rice in here? As I go through this, I'm going to run this for a couple minutes. They'll start to get a lot smaller. So I'm not setting it like this because nothing can get in there. I set it at an angle and get a flow going, right? So you really just can move it if you want to every now and then. But you're going to be here for a couple minutes.
Shall we pause?
Yeah, go ahead and pause. I'll turn it back on if I need, if something big comes up.
Go.
Okay, so I got that all mixed up. I'm going to put in like a teaspoon of white pepper. Oh, let's go with a teaspoon and a half for now. I like to put this in while I'm doing this because white pepper is relatively dry and it's kind of hard to mix in. So to do this while I'm throwing stuff everywhere, I tried to lift it up and I got cocky. So to do this while I'm doing this is easier. I'm gonna take it off when I do it that time. So I'm gonna do this just for a few more seconds to make sure that pepper's mixed in.
Just for the fun of it, by the way, we have a KitchenAid stick mixer. We bought emerald copper bottom pots. And
There we go.
yes, we do reuse our gelato containers because
for
they're
spice
wonderful
stuff.
spice. The gelato itself is actually only mediocre,
Yeah, exactly.
but we went through a phase where we were going, you know what, we'll just get the best flavor, and because they're wonderful spice containers. You get the ones that work for you, but these are great.
Okay, now I'll pull down one of these guys. You want to throw me the passer up there?
Yeah, hang on.
This is where it really pays to invest in some real equipment. Get yourself a good soup bane and a good china cap is what these are called, but sometimes they call them fine chinois. We just always call it a passer. And then get yourself a good ladle or two. Let me rinse this off.
Also known as a fine mesh sieve, which you never ever use that word.
Yeah, I don't.
And quite frankly, I don't even know if I pronounce it right, but that's what it is, a sieve.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to turn this off. And I need a towel. So now you take this stuff and you just dump it in here. Because now you got to get all that stuff out. All that
The skins.
all that thyme and bay and skins and you know, all the time we didn't put in there.
That's right.
And then you just work it through there.
Now this is a bit of a chore, so if you have children, I suggest you give them this chore.
Right, this is really good to teach your kids how to do. Hopefully when it cools down a little bit though, because don't put
Yeah.
little kids to this, they're going to splash themselves in the face. And this stuff was boiling not 10 seconds ago, right? So, and as it gets lower, you know, you'll have to make shorter strokes so you can keep from splashing yourself in the face. And you want to mash, and I'll hold this up like this, right? And you'll want to mash this stuff dry. I can't even see right now. So you'll mash this until it's completely dry. There we go. Tap that off. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to take this, if I can, and I'm going to grab one of these guys right here, and instead of dumping this stuff in the trash, I can't even get this damn thing here. Instead of dumping this stuff in the trash, I'm going to dump it in here. Because this is rice and tomatoes. Put that in your meatloaf. There's no reason to waste that. So, now I go for another round. And that'll probably finish it off, yep. I'll grab one of these guys here. And spoon all that stuff out. Oh, that's a lot of soup you're leaving behind if you don't rubber that out, right? There we go. And hoist that up there. There we go. Perfect. I'll mess with this in a bit. I usually like to wash my pans right away.
I'll get on it.
It's okay.
And I won't.
And here we go again. And it's really not that big of a deal, right, to pass this stuff through there. It's a little bit tedious, but it's not that bad. But this is a basic soup method, okay? You're going to use this soup method for most of the vegetable soups that you make. So get used to passing things, get used to the puree, get used to thickening it with something, right? Check if that's still recording, huh?
It totally is.
Cool. And I gotta raise this now because the bottom of the passer is sitting in the soup. Notice how I turn my head off to the side a little bit? This is just primed to splash me in the face. Ow, like that.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's hot. So now I go to very slow pressing method instead of bouncing. There we go. Push it till it's completely dry. That's what she said. It's not?
No.
Weird. I really thought it was.
No.
Tapping all that stuff off of there because it's not going to do any good. Not going to do much good to get it all in your soup. Okay, now. That's done. I do need that rubber back. Where'd it go?
Je ne touchy.
Oh, here it is. So I'm going to get all this stuff out. Now your passer is something that absolutely has to be washed right now.
Oh yeah.
If you let this stuff dry inside of here, you are going to be very, very sorry. So it only takes a minute, so just go ahead and wash it out now before all of this stuff sets in there.
And makes your life miserable.
Yeah. Because if you have to go dig that stuff out of there when it's dry, yeah, you will not be happy. So let's see. Let me get this guy here. That. And your soup can sit there for a minute. It'll be fine. So when you're washing these passers, you scrub the outside like this, then scrub the inside, get all the way down in here like this. I realize it seems ridiculous to teach you how to wash a passer, but you know.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all.
I've seen it done not very well before. And it may take you a couple rounds, right? That's getting too hot even for me. It may take you a couple rounds. So you do this, you look in there, tap some of that stuff out, tap the rest of that stuff out. There we go. I see just a couple more things sitting in there still. Hopefully I can get them out like this. There we go. So my passer's clean. Set that over there, and now I don't have to worry about that. I do have a nice little burn on my cheek where that soup splashed on me. Yeah. Now I'm going to rinse this guy off, right? Because it's got those rice bits all over it. There's no point in getting your soup silky smooth if you're going to turn around and put a ladle with rice bits all over it, right? Okay, so now you've got to adjust the seasonings, and you've got to adjust the acidity. So go ahead and bring me a big spoon over there. Ah, you are already on your way. So let's see what this tastes like. It's probably going to need salt. Yep. I'm definitely going to need salt. Actually, not that much though. So, I'm going to put a little salt in there. And a little bit of white pepper. Now, when you put white pepper in something like this and you don't have the benefit of the burr machine, let me dry my hand off, you sprinkle it like this. And you stir and sprinkle a little, otherwise it's just going to sit there and clump on you, right? It's really hard to get white pepper in things really well because it's so fine and so dry. It takes it a minute to accept that moisture. So I'm just going to do this. So go ahead and put some thyme in your soup and bay. I'll add it to the recipe. Just because I forgot it doesn't mean you should. And if you want to, add some lovely basil and onions and garlic, right? You can put all that stuff in there with the tomatoes together and just cook all that stuff together. Now I'm going to taste it. You can give me just a little bit of sugar, brown sugar, why not?
Okay.
It's not super acidic. Ooh, nice catch.
Thank you.
But a tiny, tiny bit. Yeah, it's a tiny bit acidic. And sugar reduces acidity. So I'm going to put, like, that's a tablespoon. So I'm going to put one more tablespoon in there. So 2 tablespoons of sugar. It doesn't matter what kind. I just happen to have brown. Put that in there. You don't want it to be sweet. You just want enough sugar to take away some of that acidity. There we go. All right, now let me see what we got. Oh yeah, that's better. All right, tell me what you think.
It's hot. Oh, that's good.
Perfect. It's hot. Now serve this with Parmesan cheese or cheddar cheese or grilled cheese like she's doing over there, or melt some goat cheese in it, or sprinkle some basil on it now, or whatever, right? Let's go ahead.
You can pour it over baked potatoes and ground beef or Italian sausage. That's a
Oh,
lovely
yeah,
meal.
so good. Now, where is the big ladle? Well, I'll use this one instead. So now I'm going to show you what the soup looks like. This is, go ahead and tighten in on this if you want to. This is lovely, lovely soup. Come in and see that pour.
All right, go ahead.
And look at that. Lovely, beautiful soup. Thickened with rice. And it's nothing but tomatoes and water and rice. It doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any more pure than that. It doesn't get any cheaper than that.
Very cheap.
Right?
The tomatoes themselves can be expensive,
But these weren't too bad.
not too bad.
Right. So
let me ask you a question real quick.
yeah.
In a pinch, can they use canned tomatoes? We never have, but I don't know.
Let me think about that. In a pinch, you could, but it's going to be very different. I'm not going to video something like that.
Oh no.
But in a pinch, you could use those canned stewed tomatoes, but it will be very, very different from what you've got here with the lovely fresh tomatoes.
Sure.
And
It'll still be better than Campbell's.
it'll still be better than Campbell's, and you'll probably still have a better idea of what's in it. And that's the biggest thing for us, is food costs and knowing what's in our food. And we're not going to have any of the gluten in here because we thickened it with rice, right? We're not going to have any of the other bad flour stuff, all the extra super calories and stuff.
This is gluten-free and vegan because we didn't even use butter.
Right, we didn't use butter or anything. This is literally tomatoes and water and rice. So it is a beautifully healthy recipe, very few calories, and the rice, like I said, this is old world tomato soup. This is how they used to thicken things before they developed roux. No, I'm kidding. I don't know when they developed roux.
Right.
But this is how they used to thicken bisque and whatnot, and it's still a great way. I will make tomato soup thickened a couple other different ways, because I know more than one way to make tomato soup sometime, right? But for now, that will do. Go tomato yourself.